Chicago comes to Sunrise. The Panthers take on Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks at home.
We look at how the Hurricanes fared in the heart of the storm against fourth-ranked Florida State.
And FIU faces UM in an inter-city college basketball matchup. All of this and more on the sideline.
Hello, South Florida, and welcome to the Sideline, the place where we get all the highlights for your South Florida teams. I'm Kenneth Bueno.
And I'm Nicolette Esper, and the Sideline starts now.
The Florida Panthers have seen nothing but success this past weekend.
And Sideline's Tanya Jimenez was at the Cats rematched against the Chicago Blackhawks.
Last week, the Florida Panthers lost to the Blackhawks in Chicago. And now at the Amerant Bank Arena, the Panthers look to win, and all eyes will be on rookie Connor Bedard as he skates in South Florida for the very first time. Both home and away team fans were eager to catch a glimpse of the 18-year-old star Connor Bedard. His presence in games have people wondering about his success, but some fans believe he's underrated and just getting started.
Significantly underrated. He's an outstanding talent, and it's just going to be outstanding in the league. He's going to be a force to be reckoned with. The problem is he's on the Blackhawks, who aren't really such a great team, so it's going to be interesting to see how they build around him.
Because he's so young, and he has a lot of potential, I think.
I think it's also because he didn't go to college, so he didn't have that long experience where people knew him, and then he came from juniors in Canada, and then he just popped on a Blackhawks team, and now he's one of the best players. Also because of his shot too, because he broke his wrist. I think that improved his shot as well.
Okay, so that means that you think he's underrated?
I think he's a little underrated. He's close to being overrated, but a little bit underrated, yeah.
With this game, the Panthers have won 4 games in a row and hope to keep the momentum going on their upcoming road trip out to California. After a high-scoring game, the Panthers come out on top with the win after clawing their way through all 3 periods. Connor Bedard living up to the hype with 2 goals, but it just was not enough. The Panthers will now go on the road to California, where they play the San Jose Sharks Tuesday, November 14th. For Sideline, I'm Tanya Jimenez.
The Heat continues its climb back to the top of the Eastern Conference this morning, with the team's win against the San Antonio Spurs last night being its 5th straight. It was not the hot start Miami had in San Antonio, as they scored just 15 points in the first quarter, but a season-high 26 points from Duncan Robinson and yet another dominant game from Bam Adebayo would kickstart the comeback. 8 points from Josh Richardson in the final 2 minutes would ice the game. The final score, Heat 118, Spurs 113. The Heat will look to stay undefeated in their current road trip and in-season tournament play when they face the Charlotte Hornets Tuesday night.
The Hurricanes took on their in-state rivals in undefeated Florida State this past Saturday. The number 4 ranked Seminoles have ruled the state of Florida this college football season, and the story was no different against the Canes. Miami came into the game as double-digit underdogs, but they were able to put up a fight with the true freshman quarterback Emory Williams at the helm. However, Florida State secured the 27-20 victory with an interception on Miami's final possession. FSU has now beaten Miami for the 3rd straight year. The Canes return to Miami for their final home game of the season following 2 back-to-back games on the road, and it won't get any easier as they take on another top 10 opponent in the 9th-ranked Louisville Cardinals this week.
The news of losing general manager Kim Ng was rough for Marlins fans, but there's still a lot to look forward to with the Fish. Luis Arraez took home his 2nd consecutive Silver Slugger Award, leading the National League in batting average in his first year in it. The vacant management position was filled by Peter Bendix, the former vice president and general manager of the Tampa Bay Rays. He looks to parlay that championship pedigree in his time with the Fish. Let's get to some ice talk, shall we? We'll head to the Florida Panthers as they come off a win against the Chicago Blackhawks. And with that, we'll bring in our studio analyst, Tanya Jimenez. First of all, Tanya, welcome. We'll begin with offense. Sam Reinhart has been on fire as of late. He leads the league in multi-point games. It just came off of that close win, but a big one against the Chicago Blackhawks. What have you noticed most about the offensive side of the puck so far for the Panthers?
Thank you, Kenneth. So I'm very happy to announce the Panthers are looking very solid. Using the core men from last season, they're looking very, very solid in that sense. And the only thing I will say is they are out shooting the opponent by a lot, and they're not making it into the back of the net. That's the only problem. But special teams, for example, last night, stellar. They were 2 out of 4 in the power play, and they were 3 for 3 for the penalty kill. So looking very solid, and honestly, very put together. And the new men are the new guys, because there's a lot on the roster, the new guys are looking very comfortable, like backing up on the core med.
Yeah, talking about the offense that we just came about, we're going to switch over to the defense. Is there any areas you think that the Panthers, maybe need to catch up on a little bit to, give it a little pep in their step?
2 words: unforced errors. They're not making their passes. They're letting things slide when they shouldn't. For example, Gustav Forsling, I don't want to call him out. I love him so much, but the problem was last night there was just too many. They just skated past him. Yeah. So there's moments like that where they need to keep more together, more concise, put up more screens, help Bobby in that sense. But I just feel like it's a lot more solid than a couple games ago. This analysis would have gone very differently a few games ago, but thankfully it's gotten a lot better.
Yeah, I love that. All right, well, coming off of hockey, we're gonna actually switch into a new segment, not a new segment, we're pretty used to one. Our favorite segment, Biggest Win, Biggest L, talking about hockey with the Panthers, their win. I also have to say the New York Rangers had a really awesome win last night. They had beat the Columbus Blue Jackets. This game was 1-1, and then all of a sudden we had Alexis Lafreniere come in, tie the game with 11 seconds remaining. He also had a goal when it was 1-1. He put it 1-2. Then they tied the game with 11 seconds, got a shot. Leading into overtime, it was 3-3. Then we got into the shootout win, and he took it for the win. I thought this win was epic. He got the MVP. He should have got the MVP for the game. Awesome job by Alexis Lafreniere. For my biggest L, I'm going to switch into football. Jackson Jaguars. Oh boy, was this a loss. This was a loss for the 49ers. They came off their streak. They had a 3-loss streak. 49ers beat the Jackson Jaguars at home for the Jaguars by 34-3. Trevor Lawrence threw 185 yards and 0 touchdowns. This was just embarrassing, to say the least. Tanya?
So for my W, I want to go with, let me call it a manifestation for a dub. All right. So Patrick Kane, he might make it. He might come on to the Florida Panthers. It's a manifestation dub. Okay. And then for my biggest L, I'm so sorry, Nikki, but I have to mention the Jets and Raiders. I have to. It was a game. It was a tough game. I just want to put it out there, just simply because it was an L. Yeah. All right.
I like the football conversation. I certainly think we're on this set, because my biggest W is actually on the football field, the gridiron. For the Minnesota Vikings, Josh Dobbs, there's a lot to celebrate. There's a lot to be on his hype train for, because in that win, it was 27-19 against the New Orleans Saints. Josh Dobbs, in just his first start with Minnesota, had 312 yards, 2 touchdowns. He becomes the first player in NFL history to have 400-plus passing yards, 100-plus rushing yards, and no interceptions in first 2 games played with the team. I would make my biggest L the Cardinals, just because they got rid of Josh Dobbs and now exactly what's happened. But my L is going to be for what's happening this weekend. Hasn't even happened yet, but F1 at Las Vegas. There are a lot of blunders when it comes down to this race in Sin City, because according to Road and Track, when executives at Formula One tried to plan this race out, they didn't know how cold it was going to be. It's like, how do you not forecast that in the desert in November, it is going to be quite freezing outside? So the engineers and the teams now have to suffer the brunt of that. And also, tickets are dropping 35% in the last month. It is not looking good in Las Vegas. The race hasn't even happened yet. Max Verstappen's already the champion. It's been like 5 or so weeks. Not a lot to look forward to with F1 at Las Vegas.
Well, you guys look like you have a lot of manifestations, and I'm interested in seeing what happens with those. We're going to take a break. Here's what's next on the sideline.
I think it's just, a confirmation of who we can be, an affirmation of who we can be, and now we got to find a way to sustain that.
It's a battle of Miami as UM played FIU in men's college basketball.
Sideline's Anthony Cruz was courtside with more on the game.
It's a battle of Miami as UM played FIU in men's college basketball.
Sideline's Anthony Cruz was courtside with more on the game.
All eyes are on Florida college basketball this year after the state made 2 Final Four appearances last year. I'm outside of the Watsco Center for an inner-city matchup between UM and FIU. This was the first matchup between the schools in 15 years. UM looked to be in the driver's seat after taking a commanding 17-point lead early on. However, FIU's tenacity on both sides of the floor sparked a miraculous 28-3 run that saw the Conference USA school take the lead towards the beginning of the second half. UM would levy the storm, though. The final score was UM 86, FIU 80. Coach Jeremy Ballard speaks to the significance of this standout performance for FIU against a Final Four team despite the loss.
I think it's just, a confirmation of who we can be, an affirmation of who we can be. And now we got to find a way to sustain that. We got to find a way to not be down 28-11. Hey, that's my job. That's our job. And we're going to do that.
Even though UM ended up pulling out the win, this was still an impressive showcase for FIU as both teams prepare to go on the road this week. For Caplin News, I'm Anthony Cruz.
All right, let's hop into our game pick segment here on the sideline, and Nikki will start on the courts. The Miami Heat plays the Charlotte Hornets. They're going to be on a 3-game stretch where they play Brooklyn and Chicago in the coming days, but the Heat have won 5 straight. They got this in-season tournament game against a pretty struggling Charlotte team. Who do you have in this week's matchups for the Heat?
Oh, gosh, there's a lot, like you mentioned. Charlotte, I'm taking Charlotte. Nets. No, actually, you know
Charlotte.
what? Sorry. I'm going to take Miami. Excuse me. I'm taking Miami for this game. Then I'm going to go with the Nets.
Okay.
I'm a little biased on that. And then I'm going to go ahead and take Miami for the Bills as well on the Saturday night
Honestly,
game.
not bad, but that Charlotte pick is a little bit of a blunder. I'm glad that you reverted on that.
I made my mind up,
Yeah, the Heat certainly have success against Charlotte in recent memory. They've beaten them so many times. I don't think it'll be any different this time in the in-season tournament. But when they do play Brooklyn, that'll be a little bit of a struggle because they did lose to them last time by 4 points.
I think it's going to be a fun game to watch.
That'll be a lot of fun. Chicago, I think, easily handable for the Heat. They'll be able to do that. Let's head to the ice. Well, we talked to Tanya about the Florida Panthers. They've been playing pretty well recently. They play the San Jose Sharks on Tuesday, the Kings on Thursday, the Anaheim Ducks on Friday for the upcoming week. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm excited to see the Panthers. I think they're coming strong this season. I'm going to take the Panthers for the San Jose Sharks game.
That's going to be pretty good. I think that game will be competitive, but Florida Panthers might be able to ice that one out. Los Angeles and Anaheim, probably tough, but, with basketball and hockey in full swing, you've got multiple games in a week.
Absolutely.
Fatigue obviously comes into factor. But obviously, a sport that has no ability to, have breaks in between. Well, they have breaks in between, but we'll talk. The Miami Hurricanes, they faced the Louisville Cardinals Saturday, November 18th, here at home. They were on a road trip against FSU. That didn't look good, and first of all, we send our best wishes to Emery Williams, that big injury late in the fourth quarter against the Seminoles. But they come back here, Tyler Van Dyke at the helm in QB1. They play Louisville. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think Louisville's taking this one. Honestly, it's sad to say that, Hurricanes coming off of that tough loss. I think they're going to go and get another loss with Louisville because it's going to be rough. Louisville is 6-1 in the conference play. I think hopefully maybe they'll get a dub when they return home.
is only 2-4 in conference play in ACC, so it's not looking good. I believe that'll also be an L for the Hurricanes. They're going to have to work with Mario Cristobal, see exactly what they might be able to do. Let's stay on football, though. Our last game pick for the week, Miami Dolphins. They play the Las Vegas Raiders, and if there's one thing that's noticeable about the Dolphins this season is that they can handle below or average 500 teams. The good teams, though, not so much. They're on a bye week. They lost to Kansas City. They play the Raiders, though, and this is the first time they play them. So do you think they've got the W this time?
I think, I think they're going to take it. I feel like the Dolphins have this in the bag. The Raiders, they won to the Jets by really close game, but I think they're going to I think the Dolphins have this in the bag.
I agree. Dolphins have been playing well with teams that are 500 or below.
Right.
The Raiders are directly at 500. They came off a win against the New York Jets recently, 16-14, but the Dolphins are the Dolphins. They've got a team good enough to handle Las Vegas. Yep. Well, just a reminder that if you want to keep up with all the updates, fun segments, and more from our crew, you can follow our Instagram for all things Sideline. Follow us on IG at sideline.caplin.
Yeah, that's all the time we have for today. I'm Nicolette Esper.
And I'm Kenneth Bueno. We'll see you next week on the Sideline.